Hi everyone, my name is Samantha Donovan, and the play I chose to do was The Basement at the Bottom at the End of the World by Nadine Graham. I like this play because I'm a very visual person. I like how I played this play in my head as like a movie, so I can really visualize it, and I really liked it. I like how modern it is. I like how it has modern issues like racism, stereotyping, and the fear of the apocalypse, the end of the world, how a disease breaks out, or just how the two characters in this play are, the only two characters in the play are Deneen, who is a 17-ish black girl, and Paul, who is a 19-ish white guy. We first meet them when Deneen comes into Paul's house. She calls for anyone and no one's there, so she enters the house and she goes scavenging for food, and then Paul comes in with a gun and he threatens her to shoot her to get out of the house. He's gonna call the cops, but there's no cops around because the world's ending. So she's like, okay, like this is weird. Why is he gonna shoot me? So Paul is very territorial. He doesn't like the fact that this random girl came into his house, and Deneen is very confident. She knows this guy is not gonna shoot me. He's gonna be crazy if he shoots me. He's not gonna shoot me. So when he does shoot her, she's kind of taken back. Like, you really shot me, like the last person on earth, and you're gonna shoot me. I think it's because I don't think he meant to shoot her. I think he might have been scared that she was leaving, so he shot her to make her stay. But then again, he might actually have done it on accident. We see Paul be very territorial when Denise starts talking about his dad. He gets very angered at the fact that she's talking bad about his dad, even though he's a war hero. And so he goes into this long ramble about how his dad's a hero, and she can tell he's lying, but he's not going to give up the fact that he's lying. He's very proud of his dad, and he's going to keep the story going until, she doesn't believe it. Which in the end, he does admit that he was lying, but he wanted his dad to look good. She didn't like the fact that this random girl was talking bad about her dad. So he got very upset, very angered. But then eventually Deneen is very territorial as well. With her doll, Sienna, she first calls it her sister, then she calls it her daughter, and then she calls it her niece. So at first it's kind of confusing as to why she's so attached to this doll. When Paul takes the doll from her, she gets very angered, and she's the one who threatens to shoot him. We don't know why this doll means so much to her. So both the characters have their snapping points. Like, they feel very strong about their family, and they don't like when people talk bad about their family. So a few issues that come into conflict in this play is between Paul and Deneen is the issue of names. When they first kind of tell each other their names, Deneen says Paul is an average, white name. She says how every white name reminds her of the name Bob. And he's like, well, why? And then she just goes on and on about how all names sound like Bob and how Bob's so plain and average. And then Paul says, well, not all of our names can rhyme. And she goes on this list of names. So they're kind of being stereotypical in that sense, because there's always, a name sounds a certain race, or it sounds not right. And Deneen makes a point of saying, you guys take everything that's ours and you make it your own. So a name is something that we made our own. We take a name, but we twist it and we make it ours. And they kind of come into conflict there, because they fight and they end up dropping the situation, but it's still another kind of stereotypical issue that comes up in the play, that comes up in real life as well. Another stereotypical racist thing that comes up in this play is when they're talking about dancing. Deneen claims how white people don't have any rhythm, and he's like, well, yes we do, like, how can you say that? And then she says, no, Deneen says something interesting. She says, all you white people, all you ever do is investigate your little noses where they don't belong, invade, keep what you like, and dismantle the rest. And then she says, I swear, all you white people know how to do is suck the soul out of something till it's as bland as you. So basically she's saying how she feels, Deneen is angered because there's no justice and no peace, in the words of her. She feels patronized against about her own race. And we see this a lot in the play about how there's so many social issues that both of them deal with. Whether it's Paul and him being white, or with Deneen being black, and how they come through these social issues. So that's where they come into conflict, is between these issues, you know, whether it's about the names, the rhythm, or just about, you know, how she gets very angry at the fact that white people take what's hers. Um, and it's kind of nice to see her kind of express this anger, because it really opens my eyes. You know, I'm one race. You know, seeing how another person lives through another race, it's kind of eye-opening, because you don't really realize what other people go through until you kind of either witness it yourself or you live it. But sometimes it's hard to live it. Throughout the play, they go back and forth. You know, they're constantly fighting, whether it's one thing or another, whether it's about food, whether it's about surviving. They're always constantly fighting until Deneen really is hurt, and she's bleeding, and she's passing out, and she's dehydrated, and Paul feels really bad. He throws her prom, and she's in and out of consciousness, and he doesn't want her to die. You know, they had all these conflicts before. We learned about Deneen and her abortion and how it really affected her and where she comes from. Then we learn about Paul and his father and how his family was killed right in front of him. So we really learn in depth about these characters and why they're acting the way they are. And in the end, when Deneen is really sick and she's dying, that's when he kind of puts their differences aside, and he really wants to help save her, and he really feels something towards her, and that really took me back. Like, it really kind of made me sad, because, you know, this random person, he didn't think it would have such a big impact on him, and obviously she did. So overall, I really like this play. I like how it took two totally separate cultures and lifestyles and two separate people and kind of brought them into one. What I took from this is how catastrophe can really overall bring people together. You know, when you have the bombings in Syria, when you have terrorist attacks, you have all these different nations coming together. And that's kind of how I related to this play, how I kind of compared and contrast how a big catastrophe can really bring two totally polar opposites together. And that's what I really enjoyed about this play, how Deneen, a black girl, totally different background than Paul, who is a white boy, totally separate backgrounds, but they somehow come together and they somehow work together. And the ending's not the best, you know, she dies, but how this huge situation can really bring two people super close together. Thank you for watching. Bye.